and it's just devastating to see all this.
The destruction and deep sorrow in Southern California this Thursday night.
An intense sense of regret for not taking this threat more seriously.
The staggering losses, the role climate change is playing, and fears federal aid could be withheld. Our Neetu Garcha is in the disaster zone. The Prime Minister takes his message to Americans about Trump's tariff threat.
We do not want to see tariffs on our side. We do not want to see tariffs on your side.
Plus, how Canadians are aiming to prevent their businesses from being derailed. Plus, farewell to Jimmy Carter.
He had the courage and strength to stick to his principles even when they were politically unpopular.
The former U.S. president's little-known but critical contribution as a nuclear engineer in Canada.
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. For a third day, wildfires sweeping through parts of Los Angeles are still burning out of control. Tonight, there is a mandatory evacuation order for a new fire on the border of Los Angeles and Ventura counties. Entire neighborhoods have already been incinerated. Almost 200,000 people have been driven from their homes by the flames. Nothing could stop the firestorm. This is what remains of Pacific Palisades, an upscale neighborhood, street after street torched, including the homes of many celebrities. 6 people are known to have died, and the LA County Sheriff expects that number to rise.
Some of them look like a bomb was dropped in them, where we will be able to bring in canines and other things to help us hopefully not discover too many fatalities. That's our prayer.
The Palisades fire is one of several major fires burning in the hills of Los Angeles. A new one called the Sunset Fire started not far from the Hollywood sign last night. That has since been fully contained. But flames are now approaching the summit of Mount Wilson, threatening communication towers and the historic observatory where Edwin Hubble showed that the Milky Way is one of the many galaxies. Malibu mansions are already gone. These before and after images reveal where opulent oceanfront homes once stood and what's left of them now. And to the east, the Eaton fire tore through Altadena. Block after block there is nothing but ash. We begin our coverage tonight with Neetu Garcha in Los Angeles. Neetu.
Donna, I'm in the Pacific Palisades area, one of several wealthy neighborhoods that looks like this. Take a look around. Homes are reduced to rubble. Vehicles that are lining the road are charred. And just down at the end of the street, you can see some houses are very much intact. Communities in Southern California will feel the destruction of the Palisades fire for years. As the wind picks up again, evacuees fear further damage.
We can't tell if the house is there or not.
My daughter's school is gone. Our church is gone.
The estimated cost from these fires, with homes, iconic landmarks, and film and TV filming locations gone, is in the tens of billions. Multiple school districts, including the state's largest, are still closed because of fire and weather conditions.
Damage assessments are ongoing at the Palisades fire. However, preliminary reports estimate the damage or destroyed structures to be in the thousands.
I'm scared to check my phone to see what's happening at.
Lindsay Rupp, a Canadian-born Los Angeles resident of more than 20 years, was forced from her home and is now staying with friends.
And Adam's house is right there.
I mean, it's just nonstop.
That's gone.
She describes the uncertainty of waiting to hear if her home in the Brentwood neighborhood is still standing.
It's been a pretty rough few days. We just have to sit back and let it play out.
The extent of the damage is already visible.
As the day went on, the texts started rolling in of countless friends who lost their homes.
On one side of the street, you can see a home that appears to still be intact, but just a few steps away, this one completely burned to the ground.
Historic winds and extensive drought have created a perfect storm that has driven people from their homes.
I took my mom's jewelry and 3 days of clothes for them.
American composer and producer Sam Glazer is relieved to have gotten his elderly parents to safety.
Oh, we could see flames the whole time. Yeah, like major flames. My wife somehow had gotten hold of a video of our block, and we saw that the whole block was gone.
They've lost their family home of many years along with irreplaceable possessions.
My mom's an artist and all her paintings are gone. And I'm feeling an intense sense of regret for not taking this threat more seriously.
Canadian aircraft, including 2 water bombers from Quebec and helicopters from BC, are here to assist, but at times, strong winds have kept them grounded. With more dry conditions and strong winds expected to return, officials warn that these fires could soon be among the most costly disasters in U.S. history. Donna, beyond the fire, another threat is looting. At least 20 people have been arrested for looting in evacuated areas like this one. Officials have condemned the thieves, vowing to hold them accountable and saying they'll continue patrolling areas like this one for criminal activity. Donna?
All right, Neetu Garcha in Los Angeles tonight, thanks. A lot of multi-million-dollar mansions have gone up in flames, including the homes of Hollywood stars. Oscar-nominated actor James Woods shared footage of flames burning just below his deck earlier this week. Now he's confirmed his house is gone. Paris Hilton posted this video saying she learned her Malibu mansion had burned while she was watching the news on TV. Billy Crystal, Eugene Levy, Jamie Lee Curtis, and Mandy Moore are among the other famous people whose properties have been damaged or burned. Global News meteorologist Christy Gordon is with me now. Christy, the Santa Ana winds are not new to Southern California, but how has climate change contributed to creating the conditions that have allowed these fires to explode?
Well, Donna, yesterday we talked about how 2 weather extremes are making matters worse in the area. Not only are they dealing with excessive or near record drought right now, but they're also seeing a Santa Ana wind event that is extreme. And really, that's what climatologists have been warning us for decades now, is that we anticipate storms to be stronger and more frequent, as well as we anticipate larger swings. So higher highs, lower lows, more flooding, more precipitation. And that is, when we look back at the weather data for this region, what they've seen through 2023 and then right into 2024, they saw well above average precipitation, where in 2024, a number of atmospheric rivers caused widespread flooding and landslides. And it also increased the vegetation during this time. And then partway through the spring, it was like the taps were turned off. And this is called hydroclimate volatility or hydroclimate whiplash, where you go from one extreme to another. And so that increase in vegetation then dried out as through late spring, summer, and fall, they saw barely any precipitation at all. And that allowed for an incredible amount of fuel for the fires. So fuel and vegetation management really will be crucial in the years to come as our climate changes. Now, today the winds have come down, but they're still seeing wind gusts up to 90 kilometers an hour. The Santa Ana winds are still occurring, although a little bit less than yesterday. But the key is that they're also seeing extremely low humidity in the region. So the red flag warnings have been extended to 6 p.m. on Friday. We are anticipating the winds to come down a little bit on Friday, but certainly they have a lot of work ahead of them. Donna, back to you.
Okay, Global News meteorologist Christy Gordon, thanks. U.S. President Joe Biden says California officials should spare no expense to fight the fires and said the state should not worry about the cost.
The federal government will cover 100% of the cost for 180 days. This is going to pay for things like debris and hazard material removal, temporary shelters, first responders' salaries, and all necessary measures to protect life and property.
The man who will soon be taking over from Biden is claiming he could do a better job of handling the crisis. Donald Trump is blaming California's governor, calling on him to resign and making false claims about the situation. As Jackson Prosco reports, injecting politics into the crisis could have real consequences for those who have lost everything.
As the California fires rage, a political inferno has erupted on the sidelines.
So what's happened is a tragedy, and the governor has not done a good job.
While homes burn, President-elect Donald Trump is attacking California's governor and the mayor of Los Angeles, blaming them for the firestorm.
This is a true tragedy, and it's a mistake of the governor.
It's not just rhetoric. There's real concern the incoming president plans to withhold future disaster aid for political reasons.
And if we don't give him the money to put out his fires, he's got problems.
In fact, officials from the first Trump administration have gone on record, claiming that in 2018, Trump initially refused relief for California after deadly fires because of the state's Democratic leanings. So when the Palisades fire erupted Tuesday, California Governor Gavin Newsom was quick to point to a lack of interference in getting aid under President Joe Biden.
No politics, no hand-wringing, no kissing of the feet.
A politicized response is one worry. The spread of misinformation is another.
It can cause a lot of consternation, stress on the victims in particular.
Trump continues to promote falsehoods about the California fires, as he did with other disasters, including Hurricane Helene.
Kamala spent all her FEMA money, billions of dollars, on housing for illegal migrants.
These, of course, are used for political gain, but also undermine confidence in government. That undermines, some of the credibility of those people as they're coming up with evacuation orders or making decisions.
With heated words and angry rhetoric spreading as fast as the flames, politics has become an unavoidable part of disasters, even if it's likely the last thing victims want to think about in a time of crisis. Jackson Prosco, Global News, Washington.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was in Washington today for the funeral of former U.S. President Jimmy Carter, and afterward, he appeared on CNN making the case that Trump's tariff threat will be bad not just for Canadians, but for Americans too.
We would definitely respond, as we did years ago when President Trump put tariffs on steel and aluminum. We responded by putting tariffs on Heinz ketchup, on playing cards, on bourbon, on Harley Davidsons, on things that would hurt American workers. But we don't want to do that.
Trudeau and Canada's premiers are now drawing up a list of American products they are prepared to slap tariffs on this time, should Trump make good on his threat. And as David Akin reports, Canadian business owners are also preparing for what could be a big hit.
I built this business out of passion. My employees are almost all model train enthusiasts and train nuts and nerds. We love trains. We love model trains.
Jason Schron has built a booming international business out of his hobby. Rapido Train sells high-end miniature train models. They're designed in Canada, made in China, and sold mostly to customers in the U.S. Because of his supply chain and customer base, Rapido Trains will be right in the middle of a looming tariff war, likely to be brought on by Donald Trump.
The biggest challenge for us has been uncertainty.
Tens of thousands of Canadian business owners are in the same boat. Schron's strategy for now, first, he'll delay shipments to U.S. customers, hoping that a tit-for-tat trade war will be over quickly. But a Canada-only 25% tariff that lasts more than a few months will be a big problem.
We'd have to move our business operations so that we actually import the goods into the U.S. directly from China. And we would have to shift our whole operation to the U.S., which there's a tremendous expense of that, of duplicating costs.
Ottawa is making plans to respond to Trump's tariff threats. The federal government has a preliminary list of retaliatory tariffs on things like Florida orange juice, ceramic toilets from Pennsylvania, steel sinks from Michigan. The goal is to hurt American manufacturers in Republican states while minimizing price hikes Canadians would pay. Schron hopes his U.S. customers raise their voices.
Our demographics are older white males and a lot of more rural, more traditional communities, and 100% skews Republican. And so, yeah, hopefully somebody has the ear of the White House and of Washington.
A tariff, of course, is paid by the importing country, and that's a message that Jason Schron is sending to his U.S. customers that Justin Trudeau was telling all Americans about today, that a trade war with import taxes on both sides of the border hurts everyone. Donna.
David Akin in Ottawa. Thanks, David. The epidemic that mostly happens behind closed doors. Coming up, the increase in intimate partner violence in this country and why advocacy groups are infuriated. Another woman has been murdered in Nova Scotia, and police say she is the fifth woman to be killed by a male partner in that province since October. Those working to end intimate partner violence say the news is not only tragic, it is infuriating because of a lack of concrete action as cases increase. Heidi Petracek on what they say it will take to save lives.
Mahone Bay, Nova Scotia is known as a small, tight-knit community.
Now the town of just over 1,000 has been shaken by the killing of a woman at the hands of her partner. A 60-year-old woman found dead Sunday inside this home was murdered by a 75-year-old man who then died by suicide in what police say was an intimate partner homicide.
This, is really sad and hard on people who are friends of the family and the neighbors and the community.
5 women in Nova Scotia now confirmed killed by their male partners in the past 3 months.
We're on track right now in 2025 to double the number of homicides related to IPV in Nova Scotia that we did last year. And it's not even the end of January.
It is deadly violence affecting families across the country.
You never think it's going to happen to your family member. Never. And then when it does happen, you're shocked by it.
Abigail Robson's mother, Ashley Burke, was found dead in Edmonton December 30th. Police charged a man with second-degree murder, the second intimate partner killing in Alberta in as many days. Of the nearly 7,000 homicide victims in Canada between 2009 and 2022, the most recent figures from Statistics Canada show almost 1/5 were killed by a partner, and almost 80% of those were women and girls.
We need to make it so that violence is not tolerable, and violence is not tolerated, whether it's on sports teams or in classrooms or behind closed doors of homes or in any sphere.
In Nova Scotia, where 22 people were murdered in a gunman's rampage that began with an attack on his common-law partner in 2020, frustration is growing.
There's so many reports, so much research. We know what we need to do. We need the money to do it, and we need the government and political will to make that happen.
Nova Scotia's government says it is ramping up awareness efforts and will meet with advocates who warn lives are at risk and more time can't be wasted. Heidi Petracek, Global News, Halifax.
If you or someone you know needs help, here is one source, sheltersafe.ca. It is a website. There you'll find provincial and territorial resources available to connect anyone in search of assistance with the nearest shelter. Ahead, why this crocodile skull got a Canadian man arrested. The American Supreme Court has denied U.S. President-elect Trump's request to block him being sentenced for his criminal conviction in that hush money case. Trump had wanted to leapfrog over the normal appeals process, arguing that the burden, disruption, stigma, and distraction of the sentencing is too intrusive as he prepares to return to the White House. He will not be sent to prison, be fined, or be put on probation, but it means Trump will carry the label convicted felon when he takes office. Trump was convicted of 34 counts of falsifying business records related to payments to an adult film star during the 2016 election. A Canadian man has been arrested in India for trying to bring something unusual through Delhi airport, a baby crocodile skull. It was found during a security check. The skull and teeth appear to be fully intact. Indian customs officials say the 32-year-old bought the skull in Thailand and intended to fly back to Canada with it. He could face up to 7 years in prison for violating India's Wildlife Protection Act. Next, remembering former U.S. President Jimmy Carter and his contribution to Canada. State funerals are among the few events where world leaders come together. Today was the funeral of former U.S. President Jimmy Carter. All 5 living American presidents were there, along with hundreds of dignitaries, including Canada's Prime Minister. Carter, who died at age 100, was remembered as a man of integrity, character, and foresight. He put aside short-term political gain to tackle challenges such as climate change, which few people had even heard of in the 1970s. And as Eric Sorensen reports, he also had a unique connection with Canada.
The 39th U.S. president was remembered today for a long life well lived and good works that will live on. A civil rights advocate from the Deep South, a peacemaker during his presidency, and with his wife Rosalind, a humanitarian for the rest of his life. His late vice president recounted how they wanted to be remembered in office in a eulogy read by Walter Mondale's son.
We told the truth, we obeyed the law, and we kept the peace.
With 4 former presidents looking on, the current president, who was a young senator when Carter was in office, praised a man of decency and faith.
We saw Jimmy as he always was, at peace, with a life fully lived.
And Joe Biden noted a seldom remembered achievement.
A brilliant nuclear engineer who led on nuclear nonproliferation.
Indeed, a young Navy nuclear engineer came to Canada at a critical moment in this country's nuclear history.
The first major runaway of an atomic reactor.
In 1952, the first serious nuclear accident in the world happened at Chalk River, Ontario. Jimmy Carter was part of an American contingent that came to help in that radioactive environment. It was historic, though the official account was unembellished.
J.E. Carter, Jr., Lieutenant, U.S. Navy, officer in charge, 13 men, 47 man-days of work, disassembly of headers, removal of miscellaneous equipment. It was definitely groundbreaking for everyone involved.
Carter gave up his nuclear career when his father died to take over the family's peanut farm. Then came politics, and ironically, he was president when the U.S. suffered its worst nuclear accident. Carter, a bit of an expert, posed inside the 3 Mile Island nuclear control room to calm American fears.
It wasn't as bad as was being portrayed in the media or was being believed by the public. He went there to reassure people.
Jimmy Carter, well remembered as president, diplomat, and humanitarian, and don't forget, nuclear engineer. Eric Sorensen, Global News, Toronto.
And after the state funeral in Washington, Jimmy Carter's casket was flown on Air Force One back to his home state of Georgia, transferred by motorcade to his hometown of Plains. After a private family funeral, he'll be buried next to his wife of 77 years, Rosalind. Carter spent 4 years in the White House, but the other 96 was at his home in Plains, teaching Sunday school in his final years. That is Global National for this Thursday. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.